Then I'll get started. We'll call the meeting of 1 December 2020 of the Glens Falls Planning Board to order. Our first item on our agenda is the review and possible approval of the minutes. Did everybody get a copy of last month's meeting minutes?
Yes.
Do you have anything?
No.
You're all set?
Yeah.
Rachel?
Oh, yes,
Everything good with you? You're all set?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Did the month before get approved, or was it conditional with those changes?
I believe that the last one that we had hereby accepted as amended.
Okay.
So it was accepted as amended in those meeting minutes. Then I would make a motion that the Glens Falls Planning Board hereby accepts the meeting minutes from the November 3rd, 2020. All in favor? Chris, do we know if our first applicant is here?
Yes, and he's coming up.
Okay.
Yeah, we can social distance. Okay.
Are they all with the applicant though?
Are they all with the applicant, or are they neighbors that are here to complain about
I
it?
will double check, but they said they were all with the applicant. Nobody, there's a couple people for 33 Glen here, nobody in opposition yet, no.
Yeah, but we can't have any. We can't have anybody
No, I know,
even
that's
in
what I'm
favor.
gonna go double check.
Yeah.
So send them down.
Yeah.
If it's not the applicant, we can't have them here.
They can submit a comment even if they're favorable. You don't have to be that.
Well, absolutely. They can submit comments. They can submit.
They can call it.
They can
Call
actually
in.
call from downstairs, correct?
Yep, they can place a call from downstairs.
Do we have the phone for phone calls if anybody has comments?
Yeah.
518-792-1364.
I was like, we need that.
No, Chris has it over there.
792-1364.
Yes.
Yes. That was right here. And I believe it's up on the site, on the website as well.
Yeah.
That's how, yeah, if the people are just neighbors downstairs. Whatever.
Correct.
It's a little awkward when you had the applicant that time sitting
Sitting next to the,
Like the
yeah, well,
whole
and that's the thing is, I
room.
didn't realize that was that way, to be honest. I thought he was part of the application. I thought he was,
I did too, until halfway.
Nobody
That's
did until
funny.
about halfway through.
yeah, until halfway through, I know it. Good afternoon.
How are you?
I'm well, how are you?
Good.
You Dylan?
Yes, I am.
You can have a seat there in one of those two, whichever one you prefer. Our first item on the agenda is Dylan Mayo, owner of, now it says 11 Morgan Avenue, but the curb cut that you're looking to do is
62 Crandall.
62
Yep.
Crandall, okay. Is seeking to widen a curb cut at 62 Crandall Street, and the apron and the driveway at that location. It requires an advisory opinion to the Common Council from the Planning Board. You are Dylan Mayo?
That's correct.
Okay. We have your application. Is there anything that you'd like to add to it?
I just have an updated little sketch if you'd like to see it. It's just in regards to the existing parking, and it's just a little more detailed than that one was.
Okay.
So,
If that's something that you would like to share with the board,
Yeah.
we certainly.
yeah. Should I bring it to you or?
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
Just with actual measurements this time.
Okay. So this is right down the corner of Shippey and Crandall.
That's correct.
And currently there's a 19-foot 7-inch opening, and you want to.
On the opposite, on the larger parking lot, I'd like to extend that curb cut. Yep.
That curb cut
For
over.
a total, yep.
Okay. So that it would encompass the entire piece.
Yeah, it's a total of 31 feet.
Right. I'm sorry, that existing one is 9 foot 10. And you
The
want to
existing
add
one, yeah, I want to widen based off that. Yep.
8 foot 1 inch in one direction and 13 foot 8 in the other direction.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. We have a comment on this from our architectural consultant. He's unable to attend the meeting tonight. I recommend the board's approval of this action, provided it is limited to extending the existing driveway parking area and apron in only a westward direction along Shippey Street, a total of 33 feet as requested, including the existing driveway and street apron. The expanded driveway parking area should be resurfaced in conformance with the city codes, i.e. no grass. The encroachment permit as submitted should be corrected as follows. Unmarked item number 1 that reads temporary encroachment, and add a marked item number 3 for street opening. This may or may not affect the city's application fee. So I think what he's saying is that on your application fee, it says temporary should be number 3 instead of number 1.
Yep.
And I'm okay with that as well. Okay, Mr. Green.
I drove by, I had no problems with it. It's fine.
Ms. Marie.
I agree.
Mr. Perry?
Just a concrete apron.
Okay, so what we typically ask of our applicants is that the apron between the sidewalk and the street be concrete, so
Yep.
that the plow doesn't come by
Yeah, no,
tear out
yep.
the blacktop.
Yep.
Just so you're aware of where we're at with that.
So you're gonna have blacktop 33 feet?
It's existing parking.
Right.
30 feet,
Okay, so you're
yes.
just extending out, okay, 'cause
I
do
want to
that.
just extend just so
The
it's
curb
easier
cut.
for access for me and my tenants.
So you're not driving over the curb that's there.
That's already deteriorated,
To
yeah.
get to
Yeah.
the parking lot that's already there.
Yep.
So no more, so it's just the curb cut and no more pavement?
That's correct, yep.
Okay, alright, so that's it, no questions.
What's that?
Yep.
I had no other questions as well. Like I said, you know, the thing that we do ask is that be concrete. I know
Yep.
it's not technically a requirement, but we do ask that be put in there. There's no seeker on this.
There's no seeker because you're not actually acting, just issuing a recommendation.
Yep.
I think it was noted that there's nothing in the city files for your current
Oh.
curb cut, so as long as everyone on the board is okay, just treating this
As a new curb cut.
as essentially retroactively approving the old one.
And allowing.
That was the prior owner, yeah,
Yeah.
so.
Is everybody okay with that?
If they had permission, we can't locate it.
Yeah, they're right, yeah.
If they did it with approval.
It'll look better than the
we
deteriorated curb that's there, so.
Exactly, exactly. That being said, I can give you this back. Thank you for that.
Yep, thank you.
And I would entertain a motion if someone would like to make one.
I can make a motion. I make a motion that the Glens Falls Planning Board hereby submits the following advisory opinion to the common council, that they should look with favor on the application of Dylan Mayho, for his residence located at 62 Crandall Street. Today's date, December 1st, 2020. For a curb cut.
Okay.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. You're all set?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who seconded your motion?
Huh?
Well, both Peter and Bridget did.
Just some notes for this one.
Yep.
Where's that?
Out of an abundance of caution, she's doing this from remote. 38 Hortica. Minimum lot size, 10,000 square feet. Minimum lot width, 100. Results of the subdivision. This is for this one that's coming up? Yes. Yep.
You may want to note the one that was withdrawn.
Yes, our next item on the agenda is site plan review 200043 for Richards LLC, contract lessee of DB4D Apparel, owner of 166 Glen Street, has withdrawn their application for tonight, so we'll not be reviewing that one.
Which one did you just first
For Richards, for
Jeffy's.
Hefe's Restaurant and Bar.
That doesn't mean they're not gonna go forward with that. I know it's nice.
The way it was explained to me was it wasn't tabled, they withdrew it.
Right, they didn't ask to table it, they asked to withdraw it.
So no, we don't know why?
It's a whole thing right now. Alright, we get the phone number.
What's that?
people were close, they're mad they can't come out and speak.
Well, that's been the rule for.
Been our rules since.
I'm trying to explain that they won't listen to me, they want somebody who's in charge. They're literally throwing a fit right now down there.
About this
I'm
one?
sorry to do this to you guys, but,
About this one?
yeah,
What
about
about
number 2.
No,
They can
number
call
2
them.
is not, or, no, the next one on the list.
The next one on the list.
Yeah.
about the 4 times?
Yep.
You got it. That's what I remember.
What's that?
It's a huge lot.
It is, but
Just have to-
Well, you and I talked, what did they end up deciding was
It's
the
not big
minimum?
enough. It's gotta be 10,000 square feet, and it's gotta have 100 square.
10,000,
foot garage.
10,000 square feet is the minimum lot size.
It should be
Oh, it's not
a
17.
non-conforming lot.
No,
I
so,
looked at the numbers and they crunched, right?
7,000 something.
yeah, it's something less than 10,000.
Then you get 100 foot.
Seven- 7,861.53 square feet is
Oh, right, it still doesn't meet
the proposed lot size.
So what do they
They
need?
don't need
Variance?
it. They would need a
They
variance.
don't meet the frontage too.
And the frontage, and also,
You need 100 feet.
you need a 100-foot front, and also, they're providing a property line, but it might be too close to the existing pool. Because there is a setback requirement on the side there to a pool.
What is that, 25 feet?
I don't remember what it is off the top of my head,
Setback to a pool.
setback to a pool. I don't know side yard setback, especially because it's a corner lot, but,
Well, but that part would be grandfathered.
no, because they're, no, it wouldn't be, because they're adding that property line.
No, but I'm saying these.
Yes,
setbacks
no,
here-
I'm saying setback to the pool.
You need 100 feet in the front? on that-
100-foot frontage in the R1B zone,
Huh.
Right, you're correct.
R1A zone.
The pool setback would not
Right.
be
So
granted.
they're intending to draw a property line next to an existing pool that may or may not meet the required setback.
You get
The other thing
4.98
to ask
feet.
would be setbacks, because typically on a subdivision plan, people plot the setbacks.
I think that at any rate, we can discuss it when they get up here, but at any rate, I think the required size, the required lot size within the city, we can't approve a subdivision that creates
They need a
any
variance
illegal
first?
lot. They would need to get variances first.
Correct. If you were to approve, you would have to condition it on,
Right, and
among any other conditions you put in place, but you have to
Right.
condition it on
well, I think,
getting the variances.
I didn't realize it was 100 feet.
yeah, it's a 100-foot frontage and 10,000 square in the R1A zone.
Right, yeah.
And I'm honestly a little bit surprised that on Matt's drawing, it doesn't indicate that. Because typically when he does
This is an old drawing though.
well, June 2005, but I'm not sure when the subdivision was proposed.
Oh, I see.
But the code's been in place at least.
Yeah.
You get him?
I don't know what we got. I don't know, is he coming up or? He didn't, alright, I thought he was up already, sorry.
You happy?
Let me get the applicant, I don't even know which one's the applicant, so I know she's here.
Who's
Is that way down there? Is it really?
We're calling the mayor now.
Oh, jeez.
Is it the neighbor then? On the other side?
Muted?
No, it's
You
fine.
can leave it up and running.
Yeah, unless you go to executive session, I wouldn't do this.
No. How many people's cards are made into this place?
Is that in the zoning code, the setback from a pool? Is it in there?
I don't know if swimming pool setbacks are in the zoning code or not. I think
There's a separate pool
there is.
regulation.
There's separate pool regulations, and I don't think that it's part of the main zoning law. And that's something that maybe Chris knows right off the top of his head.
Yeah, I can't remember, I think I did ask about it at one point, because we
Yeah,
were talking about the
194
pool
in the
and
city
like,
code.
194?
Yeah.
you know, an above ground pool, and that my yard is a little awkward.
Yeah, you don't have a whole lot of space either.
No.
That's what I keep
yeah,
telling my
like-
wife, she wants a pool. I keep telling her, we can't have it, we don't meet the setbacks.
No.
Oh, shoot, that's all I'm in there. She's not watching, sorry.
He's got better things to do.
Sorry, hon. If you're watching, I apologize. Good afternoon, again. The next item on the agenda is subdivision 200042, Corey Heyman, owner of 38 Horicon Avenue, seeking approval for subdivision of this residential parcel to create another buildable lot at this location. The application requires planning board review and approval. Good evening.
Hi,
Can you, for the record, state your name and your relation to the project?
Corey Heyman.
Yep.
And I'm the owner of the property.
Before we do any review of the project, is there anything you'd like to add to your application?
No, I think hopefully I filled it all out. I poured over it and tried to look things up to see if I actually filled everything out correctly. You know, when we bought the property, the survey had been done by the previous owner, and it looked like a good option for me, as, you know, I know that, you know, you get older and you don't want to take care of so much land, and your kids grow up and they no longer want to play on a big lot, which is already happening, you know, so it's kind of the synopsis of where I'm at. Just, you know, it's a lot of land to take care of.
Okay. Our architectural consultant had no concerns of this in his review of the application. If there are any members of the public that would wish to comment on this, we're accepting those by telephone call. The telephone number is 518-792-1364. Chris, have we gotten any calls yet?
Did we get any written comments?
I don't believe we received any written
I have not
comments
received anything yet, just, they're downstairs, and when you see if they call,
for this one.
yes,
Okay.
give it a few minutes, they were.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any.
In the meantime, I guess we can start our review of it, and if somebody calls in the meantime, we can interrupt that. Does anybody have a problem with that, as far as public comment goes? Ms. Cohen, if you'd like to start.
I mean, I guess I don't have, you know, other than what we were just discussing,
Okay.
I don't really have any questions.
The main issue, Corey, that we're looking at, that we looked at as a board on this, you are in an R1A zone. The minimum lot size for lots in the R1A zone is 10,000 square feet with a 100-foot frontage. The proposed subdivision that we have in front of us is for a 7,861.53 square foot lot, which is less than the allowed minimum, and a 75-foot frontage, which is also less than the allowed minimum. So I believe, and Mr. Fitzgerald, our attorney, can speak to this, but I believe that before we can make any approval of it, an application to the zoning board for a substandard sized lot in the R1A zone would have to be approved.
You could, if you wanted to vote, you could after
Yep.
doing your secret review, but your approval would have to be subject to getting the correct zoning variances. So it would be lot size, lot width. There's
Chris?
also a pool too.
One question for you, as far as setback to a swimming pool from a property line, what is the required side yard setback?
I didn't bring that with me, and I tried to look, and I tried to get on the plan,
Okay.
and truthfully, where does the setback start with a pool? Is it on the apron? And that's a,
I
so I'm
agree.
not, I did not comment
Okay.
on that, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. I know that there is a side yard setback required to a pool, and for us to approve a new boundary line between your existing property and the property that you're subdividing off, we couldn't do that and have it be less than what the required setback is from that property line. So that is something that we would have to have on the drawing, showing us what's required, and that it either meets it or that's an additional variance that would be required to do that.
Okay.
So,
Another thing you could ask for would be set, so let's assume, for the sake of discussion, if it was approved and if they got the variances,
Yep.
what are then the setbacks? So what kind of building envelope would you actually have?
the setbacks, I thought we looked at that. R1A,
15 on the side, 25 in the front, 30 in the back.
thank you.
But you could have them plotted, I mean, you don't have to have a survey. Plot them out.
Right.
Good evening, planning board meeting. How are we doing?
Yes, good. I'm calling in for Damon.
Yes.
Okay, can you please state your name for the record?
George Knapp.
George Knapp?
Right.
Okay. And you're live. Are you the one with the packet?
No.
Okay.
Where he lives.
What's the address?
What is your address, George?
33 Horton.
33?
33 Horton.
Okay.
All right, what is it that you would like to say to the board?
This sort of came out pretty suddenly. We wanted to be there tonight and found out we couldn't. One of the other neighbors had a fair number of, records as far as setbacks, et cetera, that sort of showed that this is difficult to put any kind of housing in there. I think it would really be detrimental to the neighborhood. We live right across the street. And I don't see how they can put another home there or a garage that's going to be so small. And part of the reason I'm there is that, I bought my house to be in that neighborhood. And I don't want, a bunch of small little houses packed on top of one another. That's not taxes for it. And it's just something where I just think it will totally take away, it'd be probably one of the smallest lots on the street. And it would be very detrimental to my value of my home if someone, put a small little lot, and it's just not very conducive to the neighborhood in our property right. So I think the setbacks, I don't know how they're gonna fit a house in there anyway, but it's something where I just think it would be, I look right across the street from that, where that lot would be.
Okay.
And it's something that they got trees all over there. It's going to be a disaster in that neighborhood if they even try to do some construction. So
Okay.
I guess, I would like to have our other neighbor, get a chance to present his footage and his setback. He had it all lined up. So hopefully he'll call in and be able to present it sometime. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, George.
All right.
Are you the only one? Are you downstairs?
No, I went home since I was kicked out.
Apologize. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
We're probably gonna have another one.
Was there another one calling in?
Yes.
And there it is.
Good evening, planning board meeting. Can you please state your name
Patrick Hogan.
and your address, Patrick?
49 Coolidge Avenue.
Okay, thank you. And you are live. You can speak to the planning board.
I'm here to speak to the plant board and in regards to 38 Oak Town.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I sent up a packet with the young man. I just wondered if you were able to get it.
I have it. It's in my hands. I will distribute it right now.
Okay, and I also sent a letter on behalf of the Huddups. They are COVID concerned and they were unable to attend, but they also wanted to pass along their disapproval of the product proposal.
I will read that into the record.
And I would also like to point of contact, telephone number to forward a text for some concerns and grievances for other neighbors that traveling from California to Panama was unable to attend.
Okay. Chris, do you want to give him your city cell phone number so you can forward it? He's looking for a city cell phone number to forward a text to. I don't know if you want to give him your city.
518
Ready? Yep.
745
745
8134. Let me check. That's my own number.
8134.
I should know my own number by now.
Okay.
415-8324, correct?
415
Yes.
415 8134. Got it.
8324.
8324. Alright. 518-415-8324.
Correct.
And I will have them forward the questions and concerns to that number.
Okay.
Thank you. So what I'm going to do is that one small package that I sent out, I just wanted to on the property in question. Page 3, is the single-family low density requirements.
Yep.
The minimum lot size is 10,000 square feet, and the minimum lot width is 100 feet.
Yes.
The building can only cover 30%, and then you have setbacks of 25 feet in the front, 15 in the side, and 30 in the back. And the maximum building height is 35 feet, which
Correct.
probably won't be an issue. However, there is the concern of off-street parking requirement still, and that's a minimum of 2 spaces. Now, page 4 is the R1B moderate density family size lot. The requirement for that one is 7,500 square feet.
But that,
Minimum lot width
they
is
don't apply to this
5
lot.
feet, and then the setbacks are required for that 15, 25, 35 the same. And again, the two parking space requirements.
Correct.
Page 5 is an overview of the neighborhood. And primary purpose of the planning board is to maintain the integrity and the aesthetics of the local neighborhood and ensure that it maintains the natural state. If you look at the properties of the adjacent air houses, you got the 100, 150, 120, 125, 158, 133, 80, 100, 100. So every other property within that block, with the exception of 38, has a average frontage of 118 feet.
Correct.
And that is requirement, like for minimum of 100 for R1A1. And additionally, you notice that the alleyway behind 38 Horicon, that's the alleyway for access to residential parking, which is already congested. There's 9 houses in there that utilize that for access to the parking areas behind the house. There's, environmental concerns already there with flooding backwater on some of the storm drains, and any new construction would only compound that. So those issues would need to be addressed as well. As far as if you go to lot 6, we'll drill down a little more on this. And again, this all comes off of the Warren County parcel viewer, and I was able to take fairly decent measurements off that. Page 6 has got the lot sizes laid out. And if you notice, the plot lines on the eastern boundary is 105 feet. However, realistically, there's only 95 feet usable because of the alleyway easement. And then on the Kensington Street side, on the western end of it, you got, 112 feet of, frontage. If you go to page 7, and we look at the overview of the property in question, with the 95 feet usable and the 100-foot minimum requirement for R1A1, that's 100 feet by 95 feet, 9,500 square feet, and that is below the requirement for what this neighborhood has been zoned for. So that would be requiring a variance if they chose to do that.
Correct.
And if you look at page 8, this would be R1B with a 65-foot frontage and a 95-foot depth for the lot. 65 by 95 is 6175, which is below the requirement for a moderate density.
Can I interject quick here?
Yeah.
The only thing that we can consider for a parcel is what it's zoned as, is R1A.
And it's, you're kind of going out into the weeds there.
That is an issue, because they don't have the space for it.
We agree.
Even if you go back to page 7, and you look at that frontage there, with the setback from the building itself, they most likely don't have the frontage for it.
Right.
They don't have the setback for it.
Right, yeah, we've already discussed that.
All right.
That was, I'm sorry, you were not on the line when we discussed that with the applicant, but we've already discussed that the proposed lot is smaller than what's allowed by current zoning. So anything that gets done would require a zoning variance prior to any approval.
Right, so, you know, I understand they got some property that
Yep.
they have a nice yard in the back of the pool, and they get to enjoy it and all, but it's not, suitable for the neighborhood, you know, to chop that up and add it on to, like a separate parcel.
Gotcha.
And that is my major concern with the planning board's, you know, logic here. So, I'm voicing my concern. I hope that we don't entertain this, and we have other neighbors who feel the same as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right?
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Is there any other calls? Speaking of that one, there's another call?
Oh, yeah.
Nope. It must beep like that when they hang up too.
So, there's 95 foot, that's,
Yeah, he's calling that usable, but that's not how that's not how we
yeah.
calculate this. It's regardless, it's to where the property line is.
Yeah.
The property depth is 105.69 feet, not 95 feet, but anyway. Regardless, even at that size, it's still under. He had provided that packet, and everybody got a copy of that. He had also provided a letter from Herb and Nancy Hudnut at 27 Horicon Avenue, Glens Falls, to the Glens Falls Planning Board, Glens Falls, New York, concerning the request of Corey Heyman at 38 Horicon Avenue. We feel that creating another buildable lot at this location is not a big enough space for a house and garage in keeping with the neighborhood. We understand that several neighbors who live on Coolidge Avenue and are located across the alley from 38 Horicon and others are objecting to the construction of a new home in the backyard of that home. Sincerely, Herbert and Nancy Hudnut, and it's dated 1 December 2020. So I'm gonna read that into the, that to give to Noreen. Do you want the address envelope that it came in? It's one less thing I have to take with me.
I'm just gonna make copies, so.
So at this point, I'll go to our board. I started with you last time. I'll start with Ron this time.
I think we need to table and have the zoning board review it and see what their recommendations are.
That's kind of my feeling as well. Rachel, you agree with that? Peter?
I was wondering if you don't subdivide it, and let it grow into the woods, and then you have to, have to subdivide it, and, you don't have to maintain it too.
I don't know, that would be hard to do, it would be very messy. I have lots of gardens that I keep, but, everything is, it would be hard for me to just let it go. I've done a lot of work, there's a lot of beautiful perennials and fruit trees and lilacs, it would be a hard thing for me to do in the backyard.
Have you approached the other neighbor on the other side?
That's a good idea. I
To
could
see
approach her
to see if perhaps she'd be interested in purchasing it and combining that lot or even a portion of it
Yeah.
with her lot.
That's a good idea.
Because that would be, it wouldn't be considered a subdivision, it would be considered, at that point, it would be considered a boundary line adjustment, and you'd just be moving her property line over onto yours, and even if it wasn't the entirety of the lot,
Right.
you could maybe get rid of some of the property that you don't wanna maintain anymore, and they could thereby gain a little bit and make a little bit bigger lot for them. It's just it's an option, but,
Yeah.
so, I think.
I agree that I think we should table it
Okay.
for zoning.
So, I mean, as far as I think our board is concerned, we don't really feel as though we can take an action on this to move it forward without doing some direction from the zoning board. So I think at this point, I would make a motion that the Glens Falls Planning Board hereby tables the application of Corey Heyman, 38 Horicon Avenue, for subdivision of the property, based on the fact that the proposed lot does not meet the current zoning. We would table this in anticipation of something else being done by the applicant, either an application to the zoning board for a substandard sized lot, or, work out some kind of a boundary line adjustment or something with the neighbor.
Okay,
Okay.
Second, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Okay,
thank you.
thank you very much.
I should know that even the boundary line adjustment would be subject to review.
Yes, it would, yep. Yeah, because technically a boundary line adjustment is considered subdivision of property, but at least that's just, it's not creating a new lot, it's just moving a lot.
And not creating apparently so much,
Yes,
I had no idea I was gonna do like that.
exactly.
So should I go down the steps or the
No,
elevator,
sure.
does it matter?
Either way is fine.
Alright.
Yep, Corey, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you guys.
Assume that's a copy for your file. Does anybody else, everybody else get a copy that you want?
Do you want a copy of the letter? I can make one copy of anything you want.
Yeah, I don't, yeah, you can take it, that's fine. Good evening.
Good evening.
So our next application is subdivision 200045, Glens Falls Area Habitat for Humanity. Owner of 3 to 7 Hubby Street. They're seeking approval to subdivide the existing parcel to accommodate 2 affordable, single-family, owner-occupied residences at this location. The application requires planning board review and approval. And you are,
I am Adam Felton, the Executive Director for the local Habitat for Humanity who owns those properties.
great, Adam, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna put away some of this other stuff from the previous application. Would you like to give us a little rundown or expand on anything in your application before we start our review?
Sure, no problem. So Habitat for Humanity believes in providing opportunities for low to moderate income families to have the American dream of home ownership. And with partnership with the City of Glens Falls and the Urban Renewal Agency, we were able to purchase the 2 properties, the one we're currently building at 9 Hubby Street, and then additional property right next door at 3-7 Hubby Street. The property at 9 Hubby Street is going extremely well, lots of community support from volunteers, corporate partners, etc. The family has already put in their 500 hours of sweat equity,
Nice.
and we're hoping to close and sell that house to them in April, and they will get financing from Glens Falls National Bank, so truly a local partnership. And as part of that strategy, we wanted to show to the City of Glens Falls that our entity Habitat was capable of being a good partner to sort of remove blight from the community and replace it with basically new, beautiful homes that are on the tax rolls and that are owner-occupied. And because of COVID, the cost of land has gone up significantly. The access to property is extremely challenging. And so as we pursued our next 3-year plan, we said, where's the easiest and most affordable tool to access additional property? 3-7 makes sense. It was likely 2 properties at one point. It matches the community perfectly well. And the most affordable strategy to provide more affordable housing is to subdivide that property.
Certainly. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I will say that there is a public hearing on this. If anyone from the public has any comments that they would like to make, they can be made by telephone. Our telephone number is 518-792-1364. You can call in and we will discuss any things that come in via telephone call. At this point, I'll read in what our architectural consultant, he had no concerns for this, and as well, the city engineer had no engineering comments as well. So, that being said, our board review is coming.
I have no questions or comments. I think it's a great, I think it's a great project.
Thank you.
We definitely need more affordable housing. No questions.
Mr. Riccardi.
I was looking at the minimum lot size, frontage, 45 feet.
They received zoning variances at the zoning board's meeting in November.
Oh,
So this project has already been in front of our zoning board, correct?
And approved.
Sorry, I should have
And
asked that.
the sizes of the lot and the frontage that is proposed has been approved by the zoning board already.
Correct.
okay, and this property, there's going to be all of that property here?
Currently, the house they're doing right now is here. This is an empty lot. So this is where the new house is going that they're building right now. And then this is the lot that they're gonna subdivide to put 2 houses there.
Yeah, but all this property is included?
No, those are,
There's no boundary line.
that's, I think here's your line right there.
No, that's a dimension.
There's a line that runs right next to
From the
this,
corner?
this existing abandoned house is the one that was torn down, correct?
Correct, yeah, and that's not actually on the agenda this evening. It's just we have a survey that covers the
Right.
entire street.
And
Right.
so they're redoing it, right.
Correct.
Okay,
So that abandoned house is gone now.
okay.
And the new house that's being currently built at number 1 Hubby?
9, other direction.
Number 9, I'm sorry, number 9 Hubby. That one is farther down the end of the street a little bit, right? I know it was down, I
As
drove
you,
down
as
in
you
there.
head towards the dead end, it
Yep.
is, yeah. So the only thing that's on the agenda this
That's going
evening
down.
is,
Yes,
is the property.
is the subdivision of the two. Yeah, I think Peter's just trying to
Figure out where they are.
orient himself as to where the property lines are.
So, this property on the left there, left,
Down the hill from the new house that's going in.
Yes.
what you gonna do with that? You gonna build that too?
No, there's not enough.
That's the whole
No.
property.
Well, no plans at present.
Oh, just
And we're
right
planning on
there.
selling that property to the family, so.
Okay.
It's pretty steep hill right there.
Yeah.
That drops down dramatically.
That's kind of their side yard.
Yeah, so that's what, yeah, that's right.
That's fine.
You're all set? Okay. Ms. Mary?
No, I have no concerns, I think it's a great project.
Thank you.
I would agree Peter in the lot size, as long as we've got the zoning.
Yep. Yeah, that was a question that I had earlier, and actually I apologize, I had spoken with Mr. Fitzgerald and Mr. Vanderzee about that, and they pointed that out. I have no real issues, 4-foot side yard setbacks, so the boxes that you have shown are for 26 by 35, those are both proposed houses?
Yeah, and that's really, we went to zoning to maximum.
Yep.
They're likely gonna be smaller, but I didn't wanna come back twice.
Right, yeah, you didn't want to have to come back and say, hey, we can't fit the house that we want to put on.
Right.
Just one question for clarification with Mr. Vanderzee, the separation distance between houses, 10-foot minimum, without having non-combustible siding?
Yes.
Okay, it's just a point of clarification for you that if you're 4 feet and 4 feet,
Yep.
it's a total of 8 feet, those 2 walls would have to be made out of non-combustible siding.
Okay.
Because you're less than 10 feet apart. It's
Yep.
just a point of
Is that a
clarification.
wall-to-wall thing, or if there's like a porch on the one side, or is it the main wall, or anything within that 10-foot window needs to be non-combustible?
You're putting a side porch in that?
Well, extremely unlikely, I'm just sort of,
Yeah,
hypothetically
just
speaking.
spitballing ideas.
Yeah, but really, anything in that 10-foot window needs to be non-combustible?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
So that was just something that I
That's
wanted
good
to
to
point
know.
out
Right.
as a
Thanks.
point of clarification. I had no additional comments on that, so if someone would like to put forth a,
You gotta do a.
Oh, we gotta do a seeker?
Seeker,
Yep.
because it's a subdivision,
sorry,
so you just gotta run through a few other questions.
we do? So the last page of the seeker form, we'll run through this. Will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations?
No.
Will the proposed action result in a change or use in intensity of land?
No.
I think it will, but it's minor. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? No, I would say it's going to enhance it. Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? No. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? No. Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
No.
will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies?
No.
I think there'll be a very small impact in that. Public or private wastewater treatment facilities. Again, I think it'd be a very small, I mean, these are two fairly small houses, two fairly small lots, so I don't think there's any, very small impact there. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
No.
Will the proposed action result in any adverse change to the natural resources, i.e. wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, or fauna?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an increased potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems?
No.
Again, I think small impacts, but they'd be minor at best. And of course, any development on that lot would take into account any new stormwater, things that would happen there. Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
No.
So based on that, we can,
You can issue a negative declaration.
someone like to make that?
Sure. I'd like to make a motion that the Glens Falls Planning Board hereby accepts lead agency status for Adam Feldman of the Glens Falls Area Habitat for Humanity, agent of the property located at 3 to 7 Hovey Street. The board has determined the action to be type 1,
No,
No.
unlisted.
unlisted, and has reviewed the short form environmental assessment form, and upon documentation and discussion, issues a negative declaration.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Yes.
So we got that part out of the way. Now we can look at a subdivision approval, correct? I would make a motion that Glens Falls Planning Board hereby grants subdivision approval for the project identified as Glens Falls Area Habitat for Humanity located at 3 to 7 Hovey Street as presented at the meeting of 1 December 2020. We had no amendments or anything with the proposal, correct? So as that motion stands.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
You're all set.
Thanks,
Adam,
guys.
thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate your time tonight.
So you guys all approved it, now everybody's gonna show up and volunteer and help down there?
That's it.
Could I get you?
See you all there.
Yes, I saw that. That's okay. Okay. Everybody get their seatbelts on? There we go. What's that?
Should I turn the phone off?
Nope.
We have an applicant, I'm assuming.
I hear the thing operator. If they could turn the heat up in here next time,
Yes.
perfect.
I'll work on that.
It'll be just a sauna at that point. Need-
Pressure.
Pressure.
Yeah, I'm good at that.
How was everybody's night?
Excellent.
I'm just gonna put this here for you guys to view.
Got it.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next item on the agenda is rehearing or continuation of previous hearing. Subdivision 200026, 333 Glen Street Associates LLC, owner of 333 Glen Street, seeking approval to subdivide a portion of the existing parcel for future financing and possible development to this location. The application requires planning board approval. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
For the records, could I just have you state your names?
Tina Rizzo with Boswell Engineering.
John Lapper, project attorney.
Kevin Wynn, 333 Glen Street Associates.
Welcome. I think I would like to, I've had a discussion with our council on this regarding the application that's in front of us. I don't know, John, if you'd like to make a
Sure.
brief presentation as to where we are with things, and then we can discuss with Ed where everything stands.
So this application is really a simple two-lot conforming subdivision for the owners of 333 Glen Street.
They're not proposing any development. There's, possibility that it may be sold for an apartment building, which would be a completely separate project because it's not these applicants. And there are other people that have come forward since the last meeting, with other offers to purchase the property if that one doesn't happen. So we don't know what's gonna happen, but in terms of, this isn't a segmentation situation because 333 Glen Street Associates is just trying to do a conforming two-lot subdivision that would give them the opportunity to sell it to somebody who would then have to come before the planning board and seek approval, or the zoning board, the planning board, whatever the project is, but it's nothing that they're proposing.
Correct. And if I'd known that anyone's phone was gonna go off, I would have known it would have been John.
Sorry, forgot to hit the.
So, Mr. Fitzgerald, I will,
Well, Mr. Lappert has raised the question of the board last month, or I guess it was 2 months ago, went down the road of beginning the seeker review process and believed they found a positive declaration at that time. The question has come up as far as whether the board was intending during your review 2 months ago to conduct the seeker review of an entire project, so subdivision project, etc. Or if you're looking to do a seeker review of just the subdivision application. And if it's just the subdivision application, perhaps revisiting how those answers, basically just running through to make sure everyone was on the same page, because it came out that some of the individuals may have been, and I don't mean to speak for the board, but want to make sure everyone was looking at this the same way. However you want to look at it, want to make sure everyone's looking at this. Are you reviewing this as just the subdivision application that they're requesting, or are you looking at as a larger project? And I kind of wanted to take a step back and make sure that the board was on the same.
so does everybody feel like we're on the same page with this?
One question, there's, on the zoning, well, this application for, the, what do you call it?
Is that the first one or the second one?
At this point, I'm looking back at just the first, I'm looking at the first application that we have in front of us, which is 0026.
Okay.
Which is the first application that we have in front of us, which is 333 Glen Street Associates. It's looking at square footage of the current square footage is 202,588.88 square feet, subdivided into two properties of 761.12 feet, and a second lot of 23,827.76 square feet. The current use of the property is office and parking garage.
And perhaps too, I could just interject and say that if the applicant were a proposed builder and this was part of a larger project where there's multiple steps involved, it would be appropriate to do one seeker review looking at the project as a whole. So you do one environmental review, you don't piecemeal it. You have received some letters from different individuals advocating that this should be reviewed as one whole project. On the other hand, this applicant, as far as I know, they're representing that they're not proposing to develop
Correct.
the property. I don't even know if you have a contract to sell the property.
We do have a contract, but it's contingent, and we don't know if that's gonna go forward or not.
And so far, there's not been an actual plan presented in front of this board.
There's been lots of extraneous hearsay, there's been articles in the paper, there's been lots of stuff that's been talked about, but the only application that's been in front of this board is for a two-lot subdivision of the property at 333 Glen Street. So,
If I'm looking, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
If
Go
I'm
ahead.
looking at the right application, which is the first one, you said 200026 is the first one, correct?
yes, It was
But on
filed,
page 4, it does say, does the proposed action include new non-residential construction? And the answer is yes.
Well,
So I
that
think if
would
that's
be,
part of the application, shouldn't that be considered?
so that would be the next clarifying thing, is if you were looking at this as just the subdivision review, making, then turning to make sure that the seeker is answered correctly
correct.
based on that.
And there's no development proposed.
So that doesn't preclude you from still then reviewing the seeker and making sure that the answers match up with the subdivision application.
And I'm sorry, which part were you asking about?
On page 4, at the top G, does the proposed action include new non-residential construction? And they checked yes. Number of structures, 1.
Oh, are you looking at?
Is that the new forms?
I'm looking at 200026.
Okay.
But are you
The
looking at
forms
the
that-
stuff that was just recently submitted or the
Yeah, I'll
original
clarify this.
application?
The new application went out with the
Yes.
same number on it, because it's still the same project. So what you need to be looking at is the one that was handed out the first time.
But it has the same number in it?
Yes.
Correct. 'Cause
It's the same project.
Yeah, they submit, when they submitted the additional environmental information, they included the same cover page.
Right.
But it's, as far as I know, it's not your intention to submit 2 applications.
Right.
One.
Does it have to go with the county?
But that's the threshold question you have to answer is, what are you reviewing? And then
That was-
proceed from there.
In front of us, there's nothing else that, and like I said, there's been lots of hearsay, there's been lots of stuff. The only physical application that we have in front of us is for a 2-lot subdivision. So, that having been said, I'd like to go back through the initial application that was submitted, and John, you can tell me if I don't want to speak out of turn for you,
No.
but I think if we go back through that initial application, seeker form that was submitted, we can go through. We did make one note at the beginning of it. It says, does the proposed action involve the legislation, adoption of a plan, local law, ordinance, administrative rule, or regulation? It was marked yes, and we had determined at that point that that should be no, because the subdivision is a legal subdivision,
Correct.
and it does not require any change there. So I think we're okay with that. On page 1 of 4, does anybody else have anything on that that they would like to look at? Peter?
No.
Ron, anything on that first page? Rachel, anything on that first page? Ed, you good with that? On the second page, again, we can go through and look at that. It's a proposed action, a permitted use under zoning regulations, a 2-lot subdivision. Both lots meet the current zoning requirements, so I think we're okay there. Consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan, it's a 2-lot subdivision within the city. Again, I think that a 2-lot subdivision is
I don't think there is a comprehensive plan.
Yeah. It's a proposed action consistent with the predominant character of the existing built and natural landscape. I believe it is, because there's no change. Fundamentally, there's no change. There's just going to be a new property line drawn. Anybody else? I mean, please, if I'm speaking out of school, step forward. Will the action result in substantial increase in traffic by doing a 2-lot subdivision? I don't believe there's anything there. Public transportation services available at or near the site? Yes. Are pedestrian accommodations and bicycle routes? Does the proposed action meet the state energy code? A 2-lot subdivision doesn't have any reference to the energy code. No. But that's, NA is not a box on here. And every time I fill one of these out, I wish that there was a block that said not applicable. Does the proposed action connect to an existing public or private water supply? Again, a 2-lot subdivision? No. Would the proposed action increase water facilities? Again, it's a subdivision, so I don't think anything there. Does the site contain a structure that is listed on either the state historic register of natural historic places? Again, I don't believe that
No structure.
there's no structure on either of the lots that's on there. Does the portion of the site proposed lands adjoin or contain any wetlands? I believe that's no. Water bodies regulated by state, federal, local agencies? No. They list the nearby habitats. Does the proposed action contain any species of animal or associated habitats? I don't think there's anything there. Is the project within the 100-year floodplain? I believe they are not. The action would create stormwater discharge if the subdivision action would create stormwater discharge from either point or non-point sources. I would say no. Again, drawing a property line. Does the proposed action include construction or other activities that would result in the impoundment of water? Again, it's a subdivision, there's no change to anything there, so I don't believe any of the runoff changing. Has the site of the proposed action or adjoining property been the location of an active or closed solid waste facility? No. And has the site of the proposed action or adjoining property been subject of any remediation, ongoing or completed for hazardous waste? Again, I would say no. So, based on those responses, I would like to re-review the part two. So, based on that, based on what we've discussed, I will go back through and read the part two impact assessment, and we can discuss those as we go. Will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations?
No.
Will the proposed action result in a change of use or intensity of use of land?
No.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? This is subdivision of land only. Will
Don't
the,
forget it's no or small
Right.
impact. And please speak up if
Yes.
not.
if anybody has any quarrels about this as far as the subdivision of land is concerned, please. Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect the existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walking?
No.
Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? Will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies?
No.
Will the proposed action impact public or private wastewater treatment utilities?
No.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to the natural resources, examples being wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, or fauna? Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems?
No.
Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? Okay. Mr. Fitzgerald.
So, it is generally not protocol to re-review these, but it came up because it seemed in looking back at the minutes that some of the board members were not necessarily reviewing the same project. It seemed like some people were doing a subdivision analysis and some people were looking at the project as a whole. If you want to look at it just for subdivision, and based on how you answered, it would be appropriate to essentially rescind the earlier resolution and issue a negative declaration. But I would do two resolutions. I would rescind the one from, I don't know that I have the minutes from the 2 meetings.
2 meetings ago?
Does that then
That was
enact the
October.
vote again, because we voted that night?
Correct.
Correct, but
So
you
does
didn't
that
vote to approve the
reinstate that?
project. You just,
All
the
we
only
voted
vote-
for that night was to declare a positive declaration
Oh, okay,
of the secret,
okay,
which triggered,
the next form, okay, I thought we voted on it, okay,
No,
got
you
it.
did not vote on
right,
anything.
and that's
Okay.
as far as we got. So, that having been said, I would make a motion to rescind the previous,
October 6th.
October 6th. So I would vote to, make a motion to rescind the previous, application, previous seeker review, of the short form that was done on 6 October 2020.
That I would add the finding of a positive declaration.
For the finding of positive declaration based on the form that was submitted.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
So,
Now you need another
That would follow our format.
that would follow your format.
so, the long form is invalid.
Correct. The motion that we just made would thereby mean that the positive declaration that we made, which triggered the next step of forming the long form, is not required.
So,
Because we are strictly looking at subdivision of land.
okay.
So, based on that, and based on our review that we just went through, and look back at the short form that was originally submitted and the discussions that we had, I would make a motion that the Glens Falls Planning Board hereby accepts lead agency status for the applicant, 333 Glen Street Associates LLC, owner or agent of the property located at 333 Glen Street. The board has determined the action to be an unlisted action, has reviewed the short form environmental assessment form, and upon documentation and discussion will issue a negative declaration.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay. Now we got through that part. That hasn't been said. The next step, as you see it,
Now you would continue, and you don't, like all of these, you can vote tonight, you can vote later, or at least continue the review. You've gotten a lot of comments in.
we have gotten a significant amount of comments that have come in and for the applicant's files. This is everything that I have received to date. Don't believe there were any more that came in after 4 o'clock this afternoon that I am aware of.
I think there was one that came in.
Is that a file for them as well, Chris, or is
Well,
that your? That's your
See
file.
what we have.
You can certainly take, I mean, those are copies of all the emails that were either emails or handwritten letters that were submitted based on the project. It's a mix of both in favor of and opposed to, and almost every single one of them discusses the proposed project that takes place on this property.
Did that late letter make it in there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the one from Mr. Caffrey?
Yes.
There's one more I'm gonna email you, John, for your file.
Okay, thank you.
That came in.
So that having been said, the application that we have in front of us is for a subdivision of land. Now, I know a lot of the letters and a lot of the discussions that we've heard from all the people say the city should purchase this piece of property in whatever form and create and keep it as a park or do whatever, to keep it as a park. In order for that to happen, in order for that to become any kind of reality, the property must be subdivided off, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
You want a different owner of that part of the property, whether it's
Regardless
the
of,
city or whoever you have or anyone else, you have to go through subdivision.
Mr. Lapper, you,
Sorry, I've been reading the letters.
and I can let you do that. Do you concur with that? Do you agree with that?
With,
That in order for anything to happen to this, I mean, a lot of the comments that we've gotten from the public have said this should be kept as a park, as green space for the city, whatever. In order for that to happen,
somebody would have to
purchase the property.
purchase the property from 333
From-
and receive approvals from the city.
Correct.
And it's nothing that this applicant is proposing, no development whatsoever. They're just looking to sell it. It's excess property that they don't need, pay down some debt.
A lot of the things in my mind, a lot of the things that have been brought up, the uses that people are asking about For example, when LARAC is in operation, this space is utilized. And Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but when that happens, do they have to provide a separate insurance rider?
Yeah, they give us insurance rider, but we don't charge them anything.
Correct,
Basically-
but insurance-wise, I mean, as the purveyors and the owners of this property, you have to be covered
Correct.
for liability if something happens to somebody while they're on this property. If the subdivision takes place and the property is sold, be it to the city or to whoever, I mean, LARAC can purchase it as far as that goes. And then they wouldn't have to worry about doing that.
Correct.
So, but in order for that to happen,
Unless the applicant is gonna just keep it green space, but the applicant could, maybe we're getting very theoretical here, but the applicant could come back to try to put a parking lot there, or do something else with it and keep it in their ownership.
The record should show that they have absolutely no plans to do any development other than to sell the property. They voluntarily, donate the property that day or the weekend for LARAC, as they have, but, the future owner may or may not do that.
correct.
I think that's a good point, that you are not drafting plans. This is not a segmentation.
Right.
Correct. Right, in order for anything to happen to it, this first step has to take place.
So, yeah, I would continue to discuss, and maybe give yourself some time to digest the comments. We'll vote on it next month.
Mr. Green, do you have anything that you'd like to add at this point?
I mean, it is a beautiful piece of property, but, depending on whoever buys it, whatever they wanna do with it, I mean, we're restricted with the zoning laws, what we could do, we can't stop development, it fits all by the zoning code and stuff. So, other than that, I think the subdivision was the right way to go.
As far as the subdivision goes, there's no ingress or egress right now, and that would be my biggest concern, because I think the traffic flow there is tight, I think it's busy, it's already congested. I sat through the light twice tonight, coming down there, coming south, so I don't think, it would be a great thing to subdivide for the ingress and egress alone,
Let me just address that, because in the city, in that zone, there doesn't have to be on-site parking. So somebody could propose something with on-street parking, there may never have to be a curb cut, but it's certainly nothing that this applicant is proposing, any kind of a curb cut or traffic onto that street. Not part of the subdivision. If it was, that would be on the subdivision map showing a curb cut, but they're not proposing that.
It was the GC1. GC1? The zoning code is GC1.
Right, yes.
The current zone.
So it doesn't have to have on-site in the parking district. GC1 does.
GC1 does require,
CCD does not.
CCD does not, but this piece of property.
But are you in that district of,
It's like that.
But if it remains a park and it's sold as a park, there is no ingress, egress.
there's a separate parking
But
district
that's,
too, that,
that's the zone.
you're on the CCD.
I know there's a parking overlay district.
That you're referring to the parking overlay.
Yeah, this one little tile is still part of the GC1 zone. Which was the other thing that got brought up, and a lot of that is mentioned in a lot of the letters that we received, and I'm assuming everybody was copied on them, talking about, future proposed uses and rezoning of the piece of property, which I know has been brought up, it's been talked about in the paper, that it was something of, not a proposal, but a meeting with the common council. The only body that can make a change to the zoning law is the common council. Chris?
Correct.
So anything that would be any rezoning of that property, regardless, would have to go through not only this board looking for an advisory opinion, exactly the same thing we did on Broad Street, when the Broad Street project was going on. Remember, we had those 4 lots that were out back that we had to look at for rezoning. At that point, this board made a recommendation to the zoning board with the Broad Street project, and the recommendation that we made, based on our review, the the common council pass that rezoning of those lots so that that project can continue forward. Anything that would be proposed for this lot moving forward would have to go through those same steps. And I think that we all remember how long that took. I mean, I think that from the time of original application for the Broad Street project to the time of final approval was 16 months. Something
But
like
as it
that.
stands now, the zoning needs parking. You'd have to have parking.
The GC1 zone does require parking.
Yeah,
And
I'm
that's my
looking at the
concern about the parking lot. I think
parking overlay.
traffic's.
I'm not sure.
But that's if somebody wanted to build something and this applicant is not
Correct.
proposing to build anything.
Even if it stays as green space, to be transferred to another entity, it still has to be subdivided off,
Yep, no, I understand.
so.
I would just point out too, not to minimize your concern, but if you were to object and let's say it got approved over your objections, if someone were to propose a building there, parking, ingress, egress, curb cuts could all be addressed during site plan review as well.
And who knows, I mean, it's still, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, the proposed boundary line on the north side of the property from Bay Street going back goes right along the curb cut? Or goes right along the curb line, the paving line?
Yes.
So, I mean, any future development of that could look at some kind of an ingress, egress easement across the existing 333 Glen Street parking lot into the back of that parcel and would require no curb cuts. It could be, I mean, that's already a parking lot. And as long as there were, I mean, there used to be, years ago, there was an access to that parking lot from Bay Street. I remember it being there.
I think the curb cut's still there.
I think you're right, the curb cut may still be there, but the fence line obviously runs along that part of the property. Because I mean, my office was looking right down at a piece of property, so I mean, and they sat there on Bay Street for 11 years looking at this piece. So, you know, I think that anything down the road future may not require a curb cut. I mean, it could be, I think it could be worked out. And again, if it stays as green space, then we have nothing that we have to worry about. If it stays as a park, just like it is, it can be whoever's ownership that may be, but it wouldn't be the ownership of 333 Glen, correct, Ken? Mr. Cardy?
I was wondering if, the zoning board passes CCD, do we have to agree with that, other provision?
So if you're asking, again, beyond the subdivision review, if someone went to the common council and got a zoning change, then that's the law. So then you have to follow the law, because the zoning is a local law, so you have to abide by that. Like any project, you can still put reasonable conditions on the project, but you'd have to follow the law.
I was wondering, if you, extend that northern boundary, it's probably, 35 feet or so, then you can have access to Bay Street into that, property.
So that's something that could be negotiated at the time of a sale, if there was a sale, but that, it would have to be shared because that is also important for the parking garage that people use that entrance, so it's important for 333, which, you know, has a lot of tenants.
That's my comment.
I'm just trying to, you know.
Trying to absorb all of this.
I am, because, we are aware of extenuating we are aware of circumstances, and when we are thinking about, subdivision and planning, just like the two that were here before, there are just some concerns that I have. So, yeah, I'm just trying to process it.
Yeah,
not trying to
yep, at
force
this,
you to delay this, but just obviously, once you got it, not to
I think
pressure.
people need time to absorb and there's a lot of stuff that came in today,
mhm.
emails, and I think I would feel more comfortable having some time to absorb all that and read it. Like the last one we didn't even get yet, because it came in clear, just got it.
Absolutely,
That would be my preference.
absolutely. Mr. Green?
I agree, you know, I think last time we got blindsided because the proposed development was kind of drawing,
Mhm.
you know, and it
Yeah.
just, you know, everybody's going, what, you know, it's the first time we heard about it.
Mhm.
You know, I still haven't seen any plans or anything, but supposedly they're out there on the internet.
That's correct, and at this point,
They're not
none,
our, they're
none
not
of
our
that,
plans.
you know, at this point, none of that,
No, we have the email, we have PDF text book.
correct, but not regarding this, I mean, again,
But that's what
Speaking-
added to the confusion.
yeah, I think that's what added to the
Right.
confusion, speaking,
Oh, absolutely.
looking solely at the subdivision of property. You know, that's where, in speaking with Mr. Fitzgerald and Mr. Vanderson, you know, looking at it from that point of view, strictly as subdivisions, you know, I think, I agree, you know, there's a lot of stuff that's come down on that, but, you know, I hope now that we've kind of backtracked, looked back at the subdivision, looked back at it through seeker, I would hope that we can, you know, at the next meeting, move forward with it and say, okay, we've made our peace, we realize where this stands, and from here forward, you know, we're looking at it as subdivision only, because that's all we have in front of us.
And that'll give everyone time to articulate any questions or concerns they have.
Mr. Carney, you okay with that?
No, that's fine.
Applicants?
Yep, that's fine, thank you for rescinding the POSDEC, and, you know, we're here to work through the subdivision with you.
Certainly.
Do a motion.
So I would make a motion then that the Glens Falls Planning Board hereby tables the application of subdivision 200026 for 333 Glen Street Associates, as per discussions of the board meeting of 1 December 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Kevin, we need to refund your money. You applied twice.
Yeah, I'm gonna call her.
Okay.
I read through them as they came in. But as, you know, as you said, and as I said, you know, having read through them, it's just a cursory, and it's kind of like, there's two piles. There's a pile of, you know, people who are definitely opposed, and I understand the opposition, I get that. But the opposition that almost every single one of them talked about was opposition to a 5-story building, 15 feet from the church, and everything that dealt with that. I get that. That's not what we have here. We don't have that application in front of us. And that, quite frankly, I don't believe that application can even come before us until there's been multiple other things that go along with the subdivision, including rezoning of the lot, which has to go through the common council.
I think it got convoluted last
It-
time.
it got-
Because
it-
we asked them if there was a project, they straight up said no, and Dan was like, we know there's a project. You know what I mean? I think it got
Well-
convoluted.
Well, and it was on the, it was on
It was
the
on the plan,
plan.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think
It
it
did. It
was,
said
It's on the plan, yeah.
to be conveyed to
Right,
so-and-so.
and even in the, law enforcement talks about.
I mean, if that wasn't in the plans, it probably would have gone through
right.
Right,
last month.
right,
And
and,
then on the plans, everybody's saying, well, what is this? What do you
Right.
plan on doing with this?
right.
You know?
Well,
Anyway,
and so that's part of it, right, is we do have to think about what is going to happen to it, so.
I think it was applicant error that caused us to be thinking of other things because.
To
you know,
kind of
they
jump-
presented, yes.
To kind of jump through hoops that I think were not necessarily hoops that we needed to jump through at that point.
No, I agree.
And that's why I just wanted to kind of take a couple of steps back to say, let's look at this,
I think that was smart to do that. It
To-
clarified everything.
to clarify
It distilled it down, yeah.
where we are with everything, and that, you know, there's a bunch of other steps that are going to have to take place if anything future goes forward with this, including, and quite honestly, I think that if it's going to be, you know, as a lot of our letters that we've gotten say, you know, the city should buy the property and keep it as a park. Okay, even if that were to happen, it still has to be subdivided off from the piece of property that it's already there. And so I think that this is step one. And step one has to take place before any other application can even be filled out. Or any transfer of property, even if it goes back to the city.
I was just gonna say, if they like donated it as, to get it off their tax rolls, would it still?
They
be-
can't
It
do it.
still has to be
They can't do it
subdivided.
without the subdivision.
Right, they can't, even if 333 Glen Street wanted to be completely gracious to the city and say, we're going to give you this piece of property, this piece of prime real estate downtown.
You're still creating a new lot.
It's still creating a new lot, and it would have to be, you know, even if they were doing it for tax purposes, to say, you know, the value of this piece of property in prime real estate downtown is X. You know, there would have to be some figure. So at 220 Glen, when we came in for that one, and they were expanding the back of the building at 220 Glen that used to be Achenbach's, and we put the addition on the back of that. We needed to, the rear property line was 6 feet beyond the end of the building, but the addition that we were making needed to be 10 feet and change. So we needed to buy a piece of property in the Elm Street parking lot from the city. So in order to do that, the owners had to go through the common council, they had to agree upon a price of what that piece of property was worth before that could all happen, and then it went from there to get a purchase price. And
I believe it was in front of you guys for a subdivision, boundary line.
a boundary line adjustment.
Boundary line.
Yeah. You know, and that came before this board for an advisory opinion first. So
I don't think you have anything else on your.
we do not. So at this point, I would entertain a motion for wrapping this thing up.
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Does anyone hang out?